Imagine standing next to an animal so colossal, it makes your car look like a toy in a cereal box. That's an elephant for you, the heavyweight champions of the animal kingdom. The African bush elephant can tip the scales at an eye-watering 14,000 pounds and stand 13 feet tall at the shoulder. That's taller than most basketball hoops. Forget slam dunks. If elephants played basketball, they'd just drop the ball in without leaving the ground. But here's your crazy hook. Elephants aren't just massive. They're brainy, emotional, artistic, and even eco-engineers. They can sense storms miles away with their feet, remember watering holes decades later, and literally plant forests with their poop. Stick around, because by the end of this journey, you'll see why elephants aren't just animals. They're living legends. Not all elephants are created equal. There are 3 main species strutting around the globe: the African bush elephant, the African forest elephant, and the Asian elephant. Think of them as the different models in the elephant showroom. The African bush elephant, massive ears shaped like the continent of Africa itself. The Asian elephant, smaller, rounded ears that look more like fluffy pancakes. Meanwhile, the African forest elephant is the mysterious younger sibling, shorter, stockier, thriving in dense forests where size is an advantage, but not too much of an advantage. And here's where elephants really impress, not just in size, but in time. These giants live long lives, averaging 60 to 70 years in the wild, with some surpassing 80. That's longer than most rock stars, and unlike us, they don't need kale smoothies or yoga retreats to keep going. An elephant's life is basically an epic novel, filled with wisdom, drama, and a cast of unforgettable characters. Now let's talk about their most iconic feature, the trunk. This 8-foot-long appendage is no ordinary nose. It's 40,000 muscles packed into one body part. For perspective, the entire human body only has about 600. That means an elephant's trunk is basically flexing on us. It's strong enough to lift a 700-pound log, but gentle enough to pluck a single peanut off the ground. Imagine being able to bench press a refrigerator and then thread a needle, all before breakfast. That's trunk life. And if trunks weren't enough, let's check out their feet. Elephants' feet are like built-in seismographs. Their cushioned pads silence their steps, letting them sneak around like oversized ninjas. But those same pads detect vibrations from miles away. A thunderstorm 10 miles out? They'll know before you've checked your weather app. They can even sense distant elephants rumbling through the ground. It's like having Wi-Fi in their feet, connecting them to the world one vibration at a time. And while their toes are busy eavesdropping, their voices are doing something even cooler. Elephants produce deep, rumbling, infrasonic calls that travel for miles. To us, it sounds like silence. To elephants, it's a booming group chat that never stops. Imagine whispering to your friend and being heard 3 towns over. That's the elephant's version of small talk, migration routes, danger alerts, and maybe, just maybe, some elephant gossip. In the elephant world, leadership belongs to the queens. Herds are ruled by matriarchs, the oldest and wisest females. They run the family like all-knowing grandmas with GPS built into their brains. She decides where to find food, water, and safety, guiding her herd with wisdom decades in the making. Think of her as the original Google Maps, only her directions don't drain your phone battery. But what makes elephants truly unforgettable isn't just their size or smarts, it's their hearts. These animals are deeply emotional and fiercely bonded to their families. When one of their own dies, elephants often return to the site. They gently touch the bones with their trunks, as if paying respects. It's a kind of funeral ritual, a quiet display of mourning that scientists still struggle to explain. They don't just move on, they remember. And yes, the cliche is true. Elephants never forget. A matriarch can recall the location of a watering hole she visited decades earlier, even after years of drought. That kind of memory can mean the difference between life and death for her family. So when people say you have a memory like an elephant, it's not just a compliment. It's basically saying your brain is a survival toolkit. Their memory isn't the only sign of genius. Elephants are one of the few animals on Earth that can recognize themselves in a mirror. That's self-awareness, something most animals fail at. Dogs think the reflection is a rival. Birds think it's karaoke night. But elephants, they know it's them. This puts them in an exclusive intelligence club with humans, apes, and dolphins. And that brain power doesn't stop at mirrors. Elephants use tools. They swat flies with makeshift fly swatters. They break off branches for a satisfying back scratch. They even plug watering holes with mud balls to keep them from drying out, like putting the lid back on nature's drinking fountain. That's not just cleverness, that's strategy. But wait, there's an artistic side too. Some elephants have been trained to paint. With careful brush strokes, they've created recognizable images. Flowers, trees, even self-portraits. Critics argue it's just conditioning, but the trunk control alone is incredible. Whether it's survival tools or abstract art, elephants prove that intelligence comes in many surprising forms. And they don't just survive in their environment, they reshape it. Elephants are keystone species, ecosystem architects. When they bulldoze a tree, it opens up grasslands for other animals. When they dig watering holes, they create life-saving oases that become community pools for antelope, birds, and even crocodiles. Elephants don't just live in their world, they remodel it. And here's their most unexpected superpower: poop. A single adult elephant produces about 220 pounds of dung every day. That's the weight of a full-grown man in fertilizer. Inside that dung are seeds from everything they've eaten. Every time nature calls, elephants are essentially planting new forests. Whole plant species depend on them to regenerate. So yes, elephants are the only animals whose bathroom habits can literally reshape landscapes. Of course, all that planting requires fuel. Elephants spend up to 18 hours a day eating. That's 3/4 of their lives spent grazing, stripping bark, pulling up roots, and munching on fruit. They plow through 200 to 600 pounds of food daily. They're not just eating machines. They're ecosystem gardeners. Every bite reshapes the land in ways only elephants can. And their family lives are just as epic as their appetites. Elephants take patience to the extreme. Pregnancies last 22 months, the longest of any mammal. That's nearly 2 years of waiting for a single calf. And when the baby finally arrives, it's no lightweight. Newborns tip the scales at 200 to 250 pounds, basically a squeaky refrigerator on legs. From birth, the herd surrounds and protects them like a royal guard. Growing up does take time. Elephant calves remain dependent for up to 10 years. That's the longest childhood in the animal kingdom, rivaling humans. They learn survival skills, social cues, and the subtle art of elephant politics from their mothers and aunts. This delayed adolescence helps forge their famously complex societies, passing down knowledge that keeps the herd strong for generations. In other words, elephants don't just raise babies, they raise future leaders. For animals that look like they should sink like stones, elephants are surprisingly graceful swimmers. They cruise across rivers and lakes with ease, using their trunks as snorkels. Picture a 7-ton submarine with a built-in periscope. That's an elephant mid-swim. They can cover long distances this way, proving once again there's little they can't do. Of course, not every story is majestic. You've probably heard tales of elephants getting drunk off fermented fruit, stumbling through the savannah like giant gray party crashers. While it can happen, most of those stories are exaggerated myths. Sorry, but elephants aren't hosting jungle raves. They're just opportunistic snackers with big appetites. And speaking of dignity, elephants hold a sacred place in human culture. In Asia, they're woven into religion, art, and tradition. In Hinduism, the elephant-headed god Ganesha represents wisdom, prosperity, and protection. Across cultures, elephants have symbolized royalty, strength, and guardianship for centuries. They're more than animals. They're icons of human imagination. But behind the majesty, there's a darker reality. For centuries, elephants have been hunted for ivory, carved into ornaments, trinkets, and so-called medicines. This ivory crisis drove populations to the brink, wiping out millions in just a few generations. What was once a continent echoing with their rumble has fallen eerily quiet. But the fight isn't over. Rangers risk their lives, conservationists pioneer new strategies, and bans on ivory trade are tightening worldwide. The survival of elephants now hinges on how fiercely we protect them. And if poaching weren't enough, elephants face another challenge, living alongside us. As habitats shrink under farmland and bulldozers, elephants wander into villages and fields. They raid crops. Farmers fight back. It's a heartbreaking collision of survival. Humans protecting their livelihoods, elephants searching for food and water. But clever solutions bring hope. Chili pepper fences because elephants can't stand the spice. Beehive barriers because even giants won't mess with bees. With creativity and compassion, coexistence is possible. Because in the end, elephants aren't just part of nature's story, they are nature's story. They're memory keepers, ecosystem engineers, cultural icons, and living testaments to resilience. If we lose them, we don't just lose a species. We lose the heartbeat of the wild itself.